Hi, I'm your host Vasco. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Success Thursday, and this week we have with us Gert Brits. Hey Gert, welcome back.
Hi.
So we're going to talk about success and what that means for Scrum Masters and Agile coaches. But before we dive into that, we do want to talk about the tool we most use to try to reach that success, which is, of course, the retrospective sessions. So share with us, Gert, what is your favorite retrospective format?
You might have to help me find the name for this, Vasco. The format that I use is I ask the questions, what's working well, what isn't working well, and what can we do about it? I'm not sure if that falls into a specific format. It's quite similar to start, stop, continue, to give an example out there. The reason why I like these three questions is because the what's working well creates space for people to give appreciation or acknowledgement or feedback in a positive and constructive manner. So it allows us to flex those muscles. It allows to set the scene. Sometimes I change where I place it. So I might ask what isn't working well first if I feel like the group needs to get something off their chest first. Sometimes if I'm focusing on team building in the team first, then I'd ask what's working well first. So depending on what kind of energy these questions get, I'll switch the order around. The second question, what isn't working well, creates space for vulnerability. It allows people to share. It is a bit risky, and maybe there's some dynamics in the group or some conflicts going on. So maybe not everyone would share the first time, but I have often noticed if I run this a few times, if one or two people are brave or vulnerable enough to go first on what isn't working, then more and more people start sharing. And it allows us to see what the status quo is as a facilitator, what's going on in this group or this team of people. Where might there be conflicts, or where might there be things that I need to investigate further later on? And then the last part, the what can we do about it question, that encourages people to have buy-in on what they want to change, because this is you just giving them a blank check. Go and spend this, go and do what you want. Take the energy and change something, do something about it. And it also reminds us that it's our responsibility to change that. And it's our responsibility to own the changes. Quite a lot of the times as a Scrum Master, I would see people trying to put action on the Scrum Master to go and solve this thing. But if the team isn't involved in how we're going to solve it, then again, it could just be changing steps in the process, or it could just be changing a document or something like that. And the behaviors don't actually change because we don't feel responsible for changing those. Usually with this kind of format, with most or all of the retros that I run, I would start with some kind of warm-up question or exercise. There's quite a fun one where somebody would say what kind of superpower they'd like to have, and then two people in the room would give them constraints. So if you're flying, if you want to fly as a superpower, then somebody could say, oh, well, while you're flying, you're farting constantly, or you shrink to the size of a mouse or something. So it's quite interesting. It makes it a bit of a game, and it makes it a bit fun. And just breaking that ice a bit, even if it's just 5 minutes in the beginning, is very important. At the end of the retro, this retro, and most of the retros I run, if there's extra time, 2 or 3 minutes, I usually ask the group to give explicit appreciations, or I ask for feedback on the retro, on the format, on the value of the conversation. So this is very much the enriching part, and it's something that people are going to walk away and remember. So I'd like to invest in those appreciations for each other or other teams or things in the company, or feedback on, how was this for you? Was the structure okay? Could you share your thoughts? Do we need to change something next time?
Absolutely. I find myself that appreciations are a great energy boost for the teams. If you use it at the end, it's like an energy for what's coming next.
Exactly.
And if you feel that there's some low energy in the team, you can use it at the start, and the retrospective will be much more active and engaging.
Exactly.
So that was the retro. Of course, today's Thursday, so we're also talking about what success looks like and feels like for us as Scrum Masters and Agile coaches. So, Gert, what is it? What is success for you as a Scrum Master and as an Agile coach?
So that's a very interesting one. It's a question we always ask ourselves, like, how can we measure it? How can we scientifically prove it? There are so many questions in the industry around how do you know that having this support function is actually helping you deliver faster or better or whatever questions your company is asking you to solve. And I've personally gone into a phase of basing a lot of my success on feedback that I ask for and that I get from teams, groups, individuals. There's different kinds of feedback. This isn't just a coffee conversation where somebody says, "Oh, good job." Feedback could be in the form of using surveys, retrospectives, having some kind of health check or mood board, or there's quite a few things like this where I can use data that individuals are volunteering to me, which is very important that they're volunteering it. And I can use it to assess myself. And then I can add in one or two specific questions. You've seen examples of our personal feedback. What am I doing well? What could I do better to have more impact? Anything new you'd like me to try, as an example? Those kind of things are what I use to self-evaluate. And the way I set this up is right at the start. This is something that I think most of us should be doing, or all of us should be doing. Right at the start, when I meet people, get to know their context, get to know what current conditions they're seeing. Oh, the team doesn't talk enough, or I'm not getting enough ideas, or there's one person controlling the conversation. Ask them what condition, what target condition they want to see instead. Do you want to have that one person being the representative of the team, or would you like it to be a pair? Or would you like people to rotate in and out so that more people can learn and be exposed to the customer, whatever the case might be? And then with that person or group of people, come up with ideas on how you can change it. So this is the setup to get to a point where at the end you can say, right, we wanted to change this into that. How do we know we're going to be successful? How can we evaluate as a group that this change or this behavior was successful? There's a few examples out on the internet, something called coaching contracts or coaching agreements. Coaching engagements is something you could also search for. But establishing at the beginning of the time that you work with a person or the group, in the next 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, this is what I'm going to try and achieve. How do we, I call them physically observable results. So if you walk into a group and you see that they're fighting and they're not getting anywhere, they're not coming up with solutions, that's a problem. But if you see them fighting or being passionate or debating and they come up with 3 possible options at the end, those are probably 3 of the best options you could have got out of that because everyone was so massively involved in it. So I ask people to look for those things, to establish those metrics or those measurements and have conversations about it. Some things that you would want to see, some behaviors or some things that you might want to change is that you might see that there isn't a lot of shared understanding over the challenges. You might see that there isn't awareness or acknowledgement of the current challenges. People might not be willing to address those. We might not have any mechanisms to review or acknowledge how we've done and what we've actually done. There might be no feedback or appreciation going on. So these are all things you can tackle as a Scrum Master. Just increase those, do those, find safe ways to introduce mechanisms
Actually,
to change these.
if I take that further, one of our self metrics for success is really how much feedback is being shared from the team towards you, but also stakeholders towards the team towards other teams or stakeholders. Like, because one of the aspects of one of the core aspects, I've just recorded a special episode that came out already. When this goes out, it's out because it's in the week of Christmas, which is what's missing. What is the gift I would like to see in the Agile Christmas tree? And it's exactly this culture of feedback so that we can adapt, right? Like we talk about inspect and adapt, but many organizations forget that the essence of inspecting and adapting is the opposite of following a plan. It's not that the plan isn't necessary. Of course it is. The plans are necessary. But if we follow the plan and we don't inspect and adapt, then we're missing the core of Agile. And as Scrum Masters, I would say that's one of the core things we need to bring with us is, right, this culture of talking about what's going on, whether it's good or bad, and then learning from that and then moving on and actively moving on, not just moving on because another project ended, but rather continuously doing that. A previous guest once used the word, this relentless improvement culture, right?
Yes.
It's not only continuous, it's relentless. We want it and we're working towards it.
Yes, exactly. And that's something that if we want to change behaviors and long-term changes, that's something that we need to have. This little thing here isn't working. That thing there isn't working. Let's talk about it. Let's solve it together. It's not. Sometimes I've seen the relentless improvement become a bit of a negative thing. People feel like they're always looking for a challenge or a problem to solve. So be very careful of that. Be aware of that. Yeah, definitely something to aim for. Improve. Every little 1% stacks on top of every other little 1%. And at the end of the day, you got 90%.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Gert.
It's a pleasure.
Part of a successful Scrum Master job is to help the product owner. Tomorrow we explore that critical role in Scrum, the product owner role. Tune in to learn about product owner anti-patterns, what you can do to help the product owner, and a real-life example of what a great product owner is and what made it so. Tomorrow on our Friday Product Owner episode. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.